Hey guys, welcome to Mild Moments History. Tonight, you're not in your bed. You're in a long, dim hallway that smells like carbolic acid and wet wool. The gaslight overhead flickers like it's tired of being awake, same as you. You're wearing someone else's shoes. They don't fit. You keep tripping on the left one. The laces snapped on your second day, but you haven't had time to find new ones, or ask. Asking isn't always welcome here. You think nursing is noble. Healing hands, Florence Nightingale, lanterns in the dark. But no one told you about the rot in the walls, or the boy who screams in Latin, or the lice under the bandage, under the collar, under your skin. You carry a tin basin that smells of last week's blood and today's tea. The floor beneath you, it's not clean. It's just been walked on until the filth turned invisible. You stop at bed 7. The old man in the cot is cold. You place your fingers near his chest, hoping. Still. You gently close his eyes, like the manual told you. The sheet doesn't reach his feet. Down the hall, someone coughs, like their ribs are folding in. You should go, but your knees say wait. You look out the window. There's fog, always fog. You haven't seen the sun in 3 days, or maybe 5. You stopped counting since Eliza died. She was 17. She called you Mum before the fever took her. You never had children. Now you wonder if you've buried more than your patience. What time is it where you are? Is it quiet? Is the room warm? I'd love to know where you're listening from, and if the light by your bed is soft enough to make this feel like memory instead of nightmare. Now, dim your lights, let your body sink, maybe turn on a fan or just breathe real slow. You're not in control anymore. You're in history, and history doesn't care if your hands are shaking. It just needs you to hold the basin and keep walking. You sleep behind the laundry room, on a sack of straw that used to hold turnips. They gave you a thin blanket the color of old fog and a pillow that's mostly cloth around nothing. It smells like steam and mildew and something you can't name. You don't mind. You've slept on worse. The matron said you could move to the attic once Mary leaves. Mary's not sick, just tired in a way that medicine doesn't help. She cries now every night and whispers to her apron like it's a child. You wonder how long she's been here. You wonder how long you'll last. The corridor creaks when you breathe. There's always one rat, just one, big, confident. You nod at it before bed. Routine helps. At night, you hear everything. The footfalls of Sister Ellen as she counts linens. The kettle boiling over somewhere. A patient coughing 3 floors down, like his lungs are trying to crawl out. No one says goodnight here. You just stop talking and hope the silence is kind. Breakfast comes in a dented tin bowl. Porridge, mostly water. You can taste the charcoal from the stove. They say if you eat it slow, it lasts longer. You've learned to chew liquid. Lunch is tea if the pot hasn't cracked. Sometimes bread. Sometimes what they call dripping fat, scraped from someone else's dinner. You swallow fast and don't think. Dinner isn't dinner. Just the meal that comes before another shift. You eat standing up. Next to the stairwell if you're lucky. You once saw a nurse sit down with a spoon in hand. She never stood up again. Nobody asked why. There's always the smell of soup in the air, but it's not for you. It's for Ward C, the ones who might live. You lick the spoon anyway, not for taste, but to remember what warmth used to be. You used to believe in healing, in neat charts, in clean sheets, in quiet deaths. Then you came here. Now you believe in things you don't name. The way Sister Agnes places a coin under every 3rd pillow. The way patients always go quiet when the fog thickens. The way the mirror in the hallway reflects only half your face. You still say prayers, not because they work, but because they sound like order in a place made of chaos. You believe in Florence Nightingale. They hung her portrait in the stairwell. Eyes kind hands, folded calm in the smoke. But you've learned that lanterns don't keep out rats, and heroism doesn't wash bedpans. Sometimes you touch the portrait on your way up, not for faith, just to feel something real that isn't damp wood or dying breath. You felt it this morning, in the way the air held still before sunrise. No birds, no clatter, just stillness, like the building itself was waiting. A boy in Ward D started bleeding from the gums. That's not on your checklist. The matron said, rinse and wrap. You did. But the water wouldn't rinse. It just turned pink and heavier. By noon, 3 more cases. Then Sister Ellen collapsed during rounds. They carried her into the linen closet. No one spoke. You were told to keep serving tea. Now the sky outside has gone the wrong kind of gray. You feel it pressing against the windows, like breath, just colder. A doctor you've never seen before arrived with gloves. Not leather, not cloth, oiled, smooth. He didn't smile, just nodded and disappeared into the fever wing. You know what this means? It's here again. The thing with no name. And you still have 12 more hours on shift. You start at 6, though the shift never really ends. The bell rings from the main corridor like it always does twice, then a pause, then once more. It's not a call. It's a reminder someone has stopped breathing. The other nurses don't run. You've learned not to either. Rushing makes noise, and noise makes death linger. You walk with your basin and a folded cloth that smells like vinegar and soot. Room 14. You've been there twice this week already. The door creaks even when you don't touch it. Inside, the air is warm, too warm. Not like a hearth, but like the breath of something that stayed too long. You can smell the morphine. You can smell the end. He's not gone yet, not quite. His chest rises, falters, then forgets to fall. You hold your breath out of respect, or out of fear that yours might echo. You touch the wrist, still warm, still empty. You whisper not a prayer, but something softer. He wore his boots to bed last night, said he was dreaming of leaving. You loosen the laces. One sock is gone. You don't ask why. You learned not to ask when you found a playing card under someone's tongue last month. The boots go in the corner. The basin rests on the chair that wobbles. The sheet stained with something yellow, and something else you don't name gets peeled back like a memory. The skin is papery pale, mapped with bruises you didn't chart. You clean what the body left behind, not out of disgust, out of necessity. Because the next patient will arrive before noon. Because there are no spare mattresses, only spare minutes. You wipe gently, but not too slowly. The matron says time is a resource. The nurses say time is a thief. The blood on the pillow isn't red. It's rusted. You wonder how long he lay like that before anyone noticed. You wonder how long it'll take before someone notices you. You lift the pillow, fluff it out of habit. Something falls, small, round smooth. A marble. Blue glass, cold. He didn't have family. No visitors. No name on his chart. Just William, scribbled in chalk on the headboard. You pocket the marble. Not for sentiment. You just don't want the next patient to choke on it. You roll the body to the side, clean underneath. The mattress squelches like a sponge full of stories. The smell isn't bad. It's worse. It's familiar. You replace the sheet. Fold the corners sharp. The way you were taught, the way no one notices. Then the blanket. Then the silence. You open the window just a little. Enough to let the room exhale. The breeze carries something with it damp, cool, unclean. It smells like the river, or what the river tried to forget. You close the window again. The fog is getting thicker. You hear footsteps in the hall. Someone is bringing a new patient. No time for prayers, no time for grief. You light the small oil lamp on the dresser. It flickers once, like it recognizes what you've done. Then steadies. You nod. That's enough. You pick up your basin. You step out into the corridor. The bell hasn't stopped ringing, but neither have you. You've changed bandages before. You've changed so many that you could do it blindfolded now, with only the scent to guide you sweet, if it's pus, sharp if it's blood metallic, if it's infection, and something deeper, if it's all three. But this one isn't like the others. The boy is maybe 13. Maybe. He's small, like someone who never had enough food in the right years. His fingers twitch when you lift the sheet, but he doesn't wake. They said he lost too much blood yesterday. He shouldn't have made it through the night. But he did. And now here you are. His left arm is swaddled in gauze, stained the color of steeped tea. You peel it gently, like you're unwrapping something fragile, but it clings like it's grown roots. You reach for the bowl of tepid water, drop the cloth in, wring it out with both hands until your knuckles go white. Then you press it to the bandage and wait. 1, 2, 3. You breathe through your mouth. The cloth warms the crusted fabric, softens it. You pull slowly, and the first layer gives. But the skin doesn't. You've seen this before, where the linen becomes flesh, where the wound refuses to let go of what covered it. You count again. Press, soak, pull. There's blood, old and gummy. And something white. You don't ask. The matron said never ask. Asking makes it harder. You hear the boy moan softly, as if from somewhere far below the mattress. He doesn't wake. You wish he would. It's easier when they're awake, when they can curse at you, or scream, or call you a monster. You know what to do with that. It's the quiet ones that stay with you. You finish the last fold. The cloth comes free with a sucking sound that makes your stomach twist. The wound is raw, deep. The skin around it has turned purple and green like rotting fruit. You want to gag, but you don't. Instead, you reach for the carbolic solution. The bottle is warm from your hands. The cork squeaks. You dab a strip of gauze, press it to the wound, and the boy jerks. His eyes flutter, but don't open. You murmur something. Not words, just syllables shaped like comfort. It doesn't help, but it fills the space. You wrap him again. Cleaner cloth this time. Not clean, just cleaner. You pin the gauze with a small rusted clip. One tooth is missing. You turn his arm gently, see if it will hold. It does, for now. There's a sound outside. The carts are coming, laundry and bodies. The smell tells you which is which. You tuck the sheet under his arm, fold the corner like Sister Ellen showed you. There's a warmth on your palm. Blood, new and bright, has seeped through already. You press gently, just to remind the skin what it's meant to do. The boy stirs. He whispers something. You lean closer. He says, "Don't take the light. You don't understand." You check the lamp. It's still burning. You whisper back, "I won't," and mean it. You stay another minute. Not for the wound, for you. To remember this boy, this arm, this blood. Because tomorrow he might be gone, and the bed will be full again. You pick up your cloth, rinse it in the bowl. The water clouds instantly. You pour it into the drain bucket. You don't watch it go. You just stand, stretch your back until it pops. The hallway waits like a throat. You step into it again. The corridor smells like boiled wool and regret. Somewhere someone has started coughing again. And you still have 12 more beds to visit before you're allowed to eat. They hand you the baby like a parcel someone wants to lose, wrapped in thin linen, too thin for February. Her skin is hot, but her hands are cold, that strange contradiction you've learned to dread. The mother is gone, maybe upstairs in Ward G, maybe buried already. No one says, no one asks. The matron just places the child in your arms and says keep her quiet. Not alive, just quiet. You carry her down the back hall, where the walls are cracked, but the light is softer. You sit beside the empty fireplace. There's no coal left for nurses, not this week, and adjust the child in your lap. She doesn't cry. That's the part that unsettles you. She just stares, eyes too wide, too still, like she's already remembering something no one ever told her. You try to recall her name. You saw it once scrawled on a damp ledger with ink that had bled into the fibers. Something with an E. Eliza Eleanor. You murmur, both gently testing which one she responds to. She blinks, that's all. Maybe it was neither. Maybe no one ever told her name to begin with. You cradle her closer. The fever is rising. You can feel it like a small fire trapped under skin, an unnatural warmth, too fast for the body to keep. You press your lips to her temple. It tastes like salt and something faintly metallic. You look around. There's no cloth left. You used your last strip on the boy from 3.2. You don't want to take his bandage off. So you hold her gently, your shawl wrapped around her like a poor apology, and rock back and forth. Not a rhythm, just movement, just proof you're still trying. She breathes in quick little flutters. You count. Then stop. Counting makes it worse. Counting turns it into math. And this isn't math. This is waiting. You hum. Something without words. Something your mother might have sung, or someone else's mother. It doesn't matter. The baby's eyes drift closed. You adjust her head against your collarbone. It fits too easily. So small. So light. You think of naming her, giving her a name to carry into whatever comes next. But you hesitate. Names are heavy, and the dead don't always want to be remembered. Still, it's wrong, isn't it? To go without a name? To leave only a heat-faded number and a linen tag. You whisper, Etta. You don't know why. It just comes. Her breathing slows, not stops, just retreats, like the tide pulling back one last time. You don't cry. You never do during, after sometimes, when the hall is empty and your hands still smell like iron. You feel at that moment the body stops needing you. It's subtle, a shift, like someone turned down the weight of the world by 1 ounce. You hold her a little longer, then rise quietly, like standing too fast might undo something. You walk her back to the linen room. There's a shelf for the very small, the ones who never filled out their first blanket. You lay her down, still wrapped in your shawl. You'll retrieve it later, after. You look for a pen, but the ink's frozen, so you press your thumb into the soot by the hearth and smear a faint E on the cloth by her head. It's not enough, but it's something. You close the door. The corridor is waiting again. The light hasn't changed, but you have. Just slightly. Just enough. You don't mean to spill it. You're careful, always careful. But your hands are shaking from lack of sleep, or grief, or the way the floor dips near the storeroom door, just enough to throw your balance. The bottle tips. It doesn't fall. It tips. That's the worst kind, slow enough for you to watch it happen fast enough that you can't stop it. The syrup lands on the floor with a soundless splash. It's thick dark with a bitter scent that clings to your lungs. You freeze. For 1 long second, your body forgets how to breathe. This was for bed 12. The girl with the chest rattle. The only thing that let her sleep for more than 10 minutes at a time. You look around. No one's there. Just rows of jars behind warped glass, a mop that's never quite dry, and your own heartbeat louder than it should be. You kneel, try to scoop some back into the bottle, but it's useless. The floor's dusty. The liquid turns to mud. Useless. You whisper something, maybe a curse, maybe a prayer. Then you stand, and wipe your hands on your apron. The bottle's nearly empty. 3 drops left. You roll it between your palms, like it might refill itself. There's no more in the cabinet. No more in the locked box upstairs. And the night shift doesn't get restock until Wednesday. You have 2 choices. Tell the matron or pretend. You choose the second, because the matron will ask questions, because she'll write it in the ledger, and then you'll be in the red. 1 more mark, and you lose the bed by the laundry. 1 more mistake, and you go back to scrubbing floors instead of saving people. So you do what you must. You fill the bottle with water from the basin. Shake it. Hold it to the light. The color is wrong. Too pale. But maybe she won't notice. Maybe she'll sleep anyway. Maybe. You carry it down the hall, your thumb pressing against the cork, as if to keep the lie inside. Bed 12 is still awake. Her lips are dry cracked, eyes wide, afraid of the air. You smile. You've gotten good at smiling when it hurts. You pour a spoonful. She sips, winces, not from pain, from taste. You wait. She doesn't speak, just closes her eyes, breathes shallow and uncertain. You sit beside her a while, count the seconds between each rise of her chest, whisper a story you remember half of, about a bird who carried names between islands. She doesn't ask for the ending. You place the spoon on the tray, tuck the blanket around her knees, and leave. Down the hall, someone asks how she is. You say resting now. You don't say how. You don't say with what. That night, you scrub your hands raw. Not because of germs, you've stopped believing in the ones you can't see, but because your fingers feel stained. Not with blood, with guilt. You lie awake behind the laundry room. The mattress creaks with every shift. You imagine the medicine again, the spill, the color. You think of bed 12, whether she's still breathing. You don't check. You tell yourself you're too tired, but you know the truth. Sometimes it's not the dying that breaks you. It's what you do before they go. You notice it just after the bell. Not the loud bell, not the one that signals death or fire or inspection, but the soft one, the nurse's bell. It rings at the edge of sleep, and your body, trained like a servant's clock, jolts upright before your mind catches up. The corridor is already gray with pre-dawn. You don't know what time it is, only that it's too early for comfort and too late for dreams. You sit up, stretch your back, feel it resist like damp wood. Your hand grazes your apron still crumpled from last night, and then you see it. The stain. Small at first, a dull brown blossom near the hem, but then another and another. Not spilled tea, not ink, blood. You know where it came from. You know which room. You remember the sound, the cough, the gurgle, the burst, the way her lungs gave out mid-whisper. You had cradled her, half-sitting, half-folded like prayer. You thought you wiped it all away. You thought you'd changed before returning to your corner of straw and quiet. But the stain stayed, deep, dark, and now exposed. You panic quietly. No breathless gasp, no rushing. Just a sharp inhale, and the kind of stillness that only guilt can teach. You slip out of the room holding the apron against your chest, like a wounded animal. In the scullery, there is a bar of soap that's seen too many hands. You run it under the pump, freezing water, numbing your fingers, and scrub. The blood doesn't come out, not really. It fades a little, turns rusty, then pink, then shadow. But it's still there. You rub harder. The cloth starts to fray. You stop. You look around. No one's here yet. The cook won't arrive until the sun is fully visible above the gate. You have maybe 10 minutes. You wring the apron, shake it twice, then hang it behind the stove, the one that doesn't light. No one checks that corner. You pull on another apron, someone else's. It smells like boiled onions and bleach. Too short at the waist, but clean. You tell yourself it's enough. During morning rounds, the matron asks if you slept. You nod. She doesn't look at your face. You pass by the bed where the bleeding happened. It's empty now. Fresh sheets, blankets tucked, as if nothing ever unfolded there. You touch the footboard once, not enough to be noticed, just enough to say I remember. In the linen room, a young nurse asks if you've seen her apron. You shake your head. She shrugs, says she'll use the spare. You both go silent. Later, when the sun is higher and the smell of breakfast never quite reaches your floor, you slip back to the scullery. The apron is gone, taken, or folded, or burned. You don't ask. You just stand there, staring at the wet patch where it once hung. It looks like a wound that never closed. You think of how many aprons have disappeared like that, how many stains were hidden before yours, how many nurses walk these halls, carrying things they never spoke of. And how silence here is just another part of the uniform. You blink, then blink again. You're standing, not in your corner behind the laundry, not in the scullery, not even in the corridor where the candle wax maps the hours. You're in a room, one of the wards, and your hand is on a bedpost. You don't remember walking here. The patient is sleeping maybe, or gone maybe. It's hard to tell in the dark. The gaslight in the corner is sputtering. The flame dances like it's laughing at you, or warning you. You step back, careful not to make noise. Your legs ache like you've been standing too long. Your shoulder is stiff, as if you've been holding something heavy. But your hands are empty. You look down. Your apron is damp, again. Smells like soap and something else, something sour, like breath left too long in the air. You try to trace the last memory, the last task, the last name you spoke aloud. Nothing comes. Your mouth is dry. You whisper, "Where am I?" But only the bed answers, with silence. You reach for the chart at the footboard. It's blank. No name, no age, no condition. Just a page with faint lines, and something scribbled in pencil at the bottom. Not again. You set it down. You don't want to understand what that means. You step into the hall, and the shadows shift, as if they've been waiting. Everything is too quiet. Even the walls, which normally breathe with moans and rustles and distant shouts, feel still. You walk slowly past rooms you don't recognize, past beds that are too neat, past curtains that move without breeze. You whisper names softly. Etta, William, 12. None of them answer. You find a basin on a table, full, still warm. Beside it a cloth, rolled and stained, not yet used. Did you prepare this? You sit. Your knees crack like floorboards in winter. You try to think. What hour is it? What day? You check the pocket watch the matron keeps by the stairwell. It's missing. So is the stairwell. You place your hands in your lap. They're shaking again, or maybe still. Then you hear it footsteps, slow, measured, coming toward you from the far end of the corridor. You wait, eyes fixed. But no one comes. Just the steps, over and over, like memory repeating itself. You rise. You walk. You find your way back to your own bed, or something like it. The mattress is cold. Someone else's blanket is folded there. You lie down anyway, because it's easier than asking. You close your eyes. And the next thing you know, you're standing beside another bed. Again. It starts with a whisper. You're not sure who spoke. Might have been you. The man in the bed hasn't moved for an hour, not since they brought him in on a stretcher wrapped in canvas, the kind used for sacks or sails. His name is Thomas. At least that's what the other nurse said. You don't know if that's his first or last. You don't ask. You're learning there are names you use to help someone die and names you save for the ones who might live. Thomas's face is drawn tight, like someone pulled all the years inward. He has the look of someone who's been waiting too long for a visitor for peace for the end. His hand lies open on the sheet, palm up, fingers splayed like he once held something and forgot to let go. You hesitate. No one trained you for this. They trained you to clean, to wrap, to dose, to replace. But no one taught you how to sit beside a body that hasn't yet decided to stay or leave. You glance around. The room is quiet. No footsteps. No matron. No task waiting like a pointed finger. So you pull the stool close, not too close, just near enough. And you reach. His hand is warm, not fever warm, not dying warm, just warm, like a pocket of borrowed life. You hold it gently. No squeeze, just contact. At first it feels strange, wrong even. You're not family, you're not clergy, you're not the last person he hoped to see. You're just the only one who's here. His breath rattles softly, his eyelids flutter, but he doesn't speak. So you speak instead. Nothing important. You talk about the rain this morning, the creak in the window frame, the way the bread crusted too hard again. You talk like he's still listening. And maybe he is. Maybe that's why he tightens his fingers for half a second. Not a grip, not a plea, just recognition. Like the last ember of someone saying, "I know you're there." You want to cry, not because of sadness, because of how simple it is, and how rare. But you don't. You take a deep breath, let it out through your nose, and you stay. Minutes pass like wet sand, soft, heavy, slow. The hand in yours grows lighter, or maybe your own just grew numb. Either way, you know. There's a stillness that comes with death. Not just in the body, in the air, in the corners of the room, in the space where thought used to be. You place his hand back on the sheetfold. The fingers gently tuck the edge of the blanket under the palm. Not a ritual, just respect. You sit for a moment longer, not because there's more to do, because it feels wrong to leave too fast, like stepping out before the last note of a song. Then you rise, pick up the basin you brought, still full, you won't need it now. You whisper, "Thank you," even though he's gone, even though he never asked. Because in that moment, he taught you something the books never did. And you won't forget it. Even if no one else ever knows you were here. She calls the name before you even reach the doorway. A single word broken in half. James. It's more breath than sound, more memory than name. You check the chart out of habit. Her name is Anne, age 43, condition consumption, notes delirious at night, sometimes restrained. But tonight, no one tied her wrists. Someone forgot, or maybe they just gave up. You step inside. She's sitting up barely, propped by two pillows that have collapsed under her weight. Her gown is damp with sweat, or tears, or both. Her eyes search the ceiling like the stars might answer. James, she whispers again, then coughs, a deep tearing sound from somewhere too low in her chest. You approach slowly, not wanting to startle her. She doesn't notice you, or maybe she thinks you're someone else. "Mama's here," she says, eyes wide. Her hands reach into the air as if to catch something invisible. You freeze. You've seen this before, the mind letting go in pieces, grasping at memories like ropes in a flood. "Has he eaten?" She asks no one. You murmur, "Yes," soft, just to ease the tension in the room, just to not leave her words hanging. She smiles at the ceiling, then winces. Pain travels through her like wind under a loose door. You pour water into a tin cup, lift it to her lips. She doesn't drink, just presses her mouth to it like she remembers thirst but forgot what to do next. She says the name again, James, and this time it breaks. Like glass, like promises, like lungs collapsing in slow surrender. You set the cup down, take her hand. It's too light, too dry, like it's already dust in waiting. You don't ask who James is, you already know. She keeps looking at the door. Keeps whispering he'll come, he promised. You want to lie. Say he's outside. Say he's bringing flowers. Say he ran all the way and his boots are muddy and he can't wait to see her. But the words won't come. Because this isn't a story, it's an ending, and some endings deserve truth even if it's silent. She turns to you, eyes clear for just 1 second. You're not him, she says. You nod. She closes her eyes and waits. The breath leaves slowly, like a bird unsure if it's free, then it's gone. You stay. Hold her hand until it cools. Smooth her gown. Brush the hair from her forehead. She was beautiful once. Still is in a way. You whisper goodbye. To Anne. To James. To the story they never finished. You close the door behind you, and no one asks what happened. There are more beds, more patients, more names to remember, and more that will never be called again. They tell you not to speak of room 5. Just clean it, fast, before anyone else walks past. You nod, but you already know. You heard it. Everyone did. The screaming started just after midnight. One long wail that fractured into something lower, like someone dragging a chair across stone. Then fists on wood. Then a crash. By the time you reached the door, it was over. 2 orderlies stood outside, silent. One holding the knob, not turning it. The other with a mop in his hands, but no intention to use it. The matron tapped your shoulder. "Bring carbolic," she said, then turned away like it was any other task. You do as you're told. Now you're in the room, alone. The lamp's been turned down low, not out of reverence, just to save fuel. The bed is broken, the mattress split at the seams, straw spilling like the guts of something hunted. There's blood on the walls, on the headboard, on the lamp chain. One footprint smeared by the door. You don't know what he was dying of, but you know what fear sounds like when it's turned inside out. You kneel. The bucket sloshes beside you, water tinged with the sharp tang of disinfectant. Not enough to clean what's here, but enough to hide it. You scrub the wall in circles, one rhythm, no thought, just motion. The stain fights back. Old blood always does. It clings to brick and wood like it has something left to say. You wipe harder. Your wrist aches, your fingers sting. You think about the man. His name was Paul. He never spoke much, but every night you'd see him trace invisible shapes on his blanket letters maybe names. You remember his eyes, wide brown, always watching the shadows, as if they might call his name next. You remember how he flinched when someone dropped a tray 2 rooms away, how he once whispered, "Don't let them in," while looking at the ceiling. You remember how he screamed, because you can't forget it, no one can. And now you're here, scrubbing the echo. There's a mark beside the window. Fingernails. 4. Dug deep into the wood like claws. You run your thumb across them. He fought something, or someone, or maybe just himself. You don't cry, you breathe. You rinse the cloth. Water turns red, then pink, then cloudy. You wring it out again. The air smells like fear, diluted by soap. You finish the last corner, fold the rag, close the window. You step back, look around. The walls are clean now. But the room isn't. Some rooms never are. You place a sprig of a dried lavender on the sill, not because it works, because it's the only thing in this building that smells like something outside of death. You turn off the lamp, close the door behind you, and walk away. Quiet. Like no one ever screamed. It happens slowly, not like a slip, more like a fade, like ink running out in the middle of a name. You walk the ward like always, left hand carrying the tray, right hand holding the spoon or the cup or the cloth. You nod to the beds you've known for weeks, the girl with the missing teeth, the man who whistles in his sleep, the one who used to cry at every bell. You think you know their faces. But today something is off. You pause beside bed 6. An old woman lies there, eyes closed, mouth parted just slightly. You reach to check her pulse, automatic, practiced. But as your fingers hover, you stop. Wasn't she? Didn't you? You blink. She looks familiar, but not specific. You remember changing her sheets 2 nights ago? Or was that the one in bed 9? You glance around. The beds look the same. The faces blur. You whisper her name. Nothing. You check the chart. It's smeared, unreadable. You step back. At the end of the hall, the boy with the twisted ankle waves at you. Or maybe he's waving at someone else. You wave back anyway. You reach the tea cart, pour a cup. Then pause. Who did you pour that for? You retrace your steps. Room 3. Room 12, you're not sure. You sip the tea yourself, not out of thirst, out of confusion. You return to bed 8. A man lies still, eyes half open. You freeze. Is he breathing? You wait. Yes, barely. You tuck the blanket tighter. He flinches, still alive. You whisper sorry, but you don't know why. By the time you reach the next bed, your heart is tired. Not fast, just heavy. You start writing names on your palm, in pencil, 1 per bed. But the sweat makes it blur. Soon the names become initials, then dots, then nothing. At dinner, you sit alone with a bowl of something lukewarm and gray. The spoon shakes in your hand. You don't know if it's from hunger or fear. Sister Agnes asks if you've seen Thomas. You say yes. But you haven't, not since you stop. You don't remember which day he left. You don't remember if he left at all. You lie awake that night staring at the beams above your cot. They creak with the weight of time. You whisper names to yourself, the ones you can still recall. William, Etta, James, Anne, Paul. But even those start to feel like fiction. In the morning, you walk the ward again. Someone calls your name. You turn, but you're not sure who they are. You smile anyway, because that's all you have left. Not memory, not certainty, just habit. And a soft voice that says, keep going. Even when you no longer remember who it's for. They say it's simple, just warm water and cloth. Sister Ellen whispers, pushing the door open with her elbow. Then she hands you the key to the washroom and leaves. You're alone. The door closes behind you with a sound like finality, the kind that doesn't echo, just settles. The room smells of iron and boiled linen, and something older, dust that's known sorrow, mildew that forgets itself in corners. He's lying on the wooden slab, bare, still, arms folded, face covered with a towel. You don't know his name. The tag around his toe reads unidentified, no age, no cause. Just a number, 4 digits. You walk to the basin. There's a bucket of water waiting cold. No steam, no comfort. You light the stove under the copper kettle, but it's slow to catch. The kindling is damp. You wait. The body waits. Eventually, you give up. You dip the cloth anyway. The water bites your fingers. You wring it out and walk back. You uncover the face. He looks peaceful, or maybe just emptied. The eyes are closed. Someone already did that. The mouth is slightly open. You think about closing it, but your hands won't move. You start at the forehead, wipe gently, like you're not supposed to wake him. The cold cloth leaves goosebumps on your own arms. You move down the neck, the chest. The ribs protrude like words unspoken. You whisper, I'm sorry. Not for the cold water, for everything else. You dip the cloth again. This time it turns faintly pink. You don't ask why. You wash his arms. His hands are large. One of the fingers is crooked, broken once long ago. You wonder what he did, who he loved, if someone is out there still waiting to hear that he's gone. You wash his legs. One knee has a scar. The ankle is bruised. None of it tells you anything, and yet it tells you everything. You reach for the linen, dry him slowly, cloth against skin like folding time backwards. You find the clean gown stiff with starch and struggle to get it over his shoulders. The arms won't bend the way they should. Eventually, you manage. He looks almost human again, not like a number, not like a chore. You smooth the collar, and then it hits you. The water was too cold. You know it, you feel it, it lingers in your bones. You failed the first touch, the one that mattered. He never said a word, but your hands were supposed to speak for you. You step back. The cloth drops into the basin. No splash, just surrender. You light a single candle near the door. Not protocol, just instinct. Then you leave, quietly, without closing the door all the way. Because some goodbyes should never echo shut. It's between rounds. The corridor is quieter than usual, the kind of quiet that presses against your skin like damp linen. You're carrying a tray of soiled linens, careful not to let the corner brush your apron. You pass the doctor's lounge. Not really a room, just a carved-out space behind the curtain where the scent of pipe smoke tries to drown the scent of sickness. 2 doctors are inside, laughing. You're not supposed to stop. You don't, but your feet slow, just for a second. The older one says it at first. Something about at least the dead girl kept her mouth shut for once. The younger one snorts. murmurs, "Shame she wasn't that quiet when alive." They both chuckle. Then silence. Like even they know they've said too much. You keep walking. You don't drop the tray. You don't turn. You don't speak. But something inside you does. It folds, small, like a clean sheet tucked into a drawer you'll never open again. You don't know which girl they meant. You don't want to know. Because if it's the one with the red ribbon, the one who used to hum under her breath when the pain wasn't too bad, if it's her, you might never forgive this building. You reach the laundry room, set down the tray, begin to sort the linens into piles, white, brown, stained beyond saving. Your hands move without thinking. Your eyes sting without blinking. You remember what the matron told you. Don't get attached. The dead don't care if you cried. But she never said what to do when the living laughed. Later you see one of the doctors in the hallway, the younger one. He smiles at you, not kindly, just out of habit. You smile back, because that's what you've been taught. Because silence is part of the uniform. He walks past. You exhale. That night, you check on the beds 3 times instead of 2. You straighten every blanket. You whisper each girl's name, even the ones who are gone. You don't tell anyone what you heard. You don't write it down. You don't scream. You just carry it, like you carry the tray, heavy on one side, always tilting. And in the morning, when the bells ring again, you answer them like nothing's broken inside you. Because in this place, you are expected to heal everything except yourself. It's not in the books, not on the charts, not in any lesson you were taught when they handed you your first apron and told you to wash your hands only if you have time. But it's real. You learn it slowly, by mistake really. The first few times you think it's the linens, then the basin, then the chamber pot tucked under the bed. But then you realize it's none of those. It's them. The ones who are leaving. There's a scent they carry, not loud, not sharp, but heavy, like the air around them has thickened, like their breath is becoming part of the walls. Tonight, it's bed 14. You open the door and it hits you soft, sour, faintly sweet, like rotting fruit left too long in a cellar. Your throat tightens before your mind can name it. She's asleep, or unconscious, you can't tell. Her chest rises shallowly, each breath hesitant, as though her body isn't sure whether it's worth the effort. You open the window a crack, not to let air in, but to let something go. The scent lingers, it always does. You step closer, brush the hair from her forehead. She's younger than you expected, maybe 30, maybe less. There's a child's ribbon tied to her wrist, faded blue, too clean to have come from here. You dip a cloth in cool water, wipe her brow. The skin beneath is waxy, almost translucent. You can see the blue web of veins that seem to have given up moving. A soft sound escapes her lips. You lean in. She's not speaking, just sighing, as if even dreams are too much to hold now. You sit by her side. You don't check the chart. You don't need to. You've learned this moment. You know how it feels to sit next to someone the world is gently forgetting. You stay until the shift bell rings. No one else comes. You don't call for them. There's nothing to be done. Not now. Later when they ask, you'll say she passed quietly, which is mostly true, except for the sound, that deep final exhale that seemed to pull something out of the room with it. You'll say she was peaceful, and maybe she was. But you won't mention the smell, because no one talks about it, like it's a secret passed down from one tired nurse to another, like superstition, like a curse. That night, when you rest behind the laundry door, you smell it on your apron, still faint, still there. You hang the fabric outside the window. Let the wind take what it can. But you know, once you've learned it, you can't unlearn it. And now, every time you walk into a room, you breathe in and wonder if the room is already saying goodbye. It's late. Too late for visitors. Too late for doctors. Too late for questions. The hall is dim. Gaslight flickers in one corner, barely holding. You're carrying a pail of clean cloths, still warm from the boiler. You walk slowly. Not from tiredness, though that's always there, but from something heavier, duller. You pass Ward C. No one calls your name. No one stirs. Only soft breath and shallow dreams. You pause at the last bed. A boy. 16, maybe less. They say his name is Arthur, but he doesn't speak. Hasn't in days. You used to sit by him during rounds, whispering nothing just to keep the silence kind. He sleeps now, mouth slightly open, one arm hanging off the bed, like he forgot where his body ends. And that's when you see it. The rat. Small, gray, silent. It moves like it owns the place, not rushing, not hiding, just walking along the frame of the bed like a ghost that grew claws. It sniffs the boy's hand, pauses. You don't move. You don't scream. You don't chase it. You don't throw the cloth in your hand, even though you could. You just watch. Not out of cruelty, not even out of fear. But because this has happened before, and last time when you shouted, the boy woke in a panic and tore his own bandages off. They punished you for that. So now you stay quiet. The rat continues climbing up over the thin blanket, stepping across the boy's hip, then hopping down the other side like a traveler passing through a forgotten town. Gone. You breathe again. You don't realize you were holding it. You step closer, check the boy's chest. Still rising, still alive. You cover his hand with the blanket, tuck the edges in a little tighter. Not for protection, for dignity. You look around, the others are still asleep, or pretending to be. You wonder how many saw it, how many dream of claws and whiskers now. You walk away, back to the corridor, back to the cloths that are cooling in your arms. Later, someone will ask if the rats are getting worse. You'll say nothing. You'll nod or shrug or smile in that way that says, I don't have space left for outrage. Because here in this place, a rat on a sleeping boy isn't the worst thing that happens. It's just another night. He doesn't knock. He never does. The door simply opens, and he's there. Always in black. Not the black of mourning, but something older. More permanent, like shadow turned solid. You're folding towels by the basin when you see him pass. No words, no nod, just a movement gliding really down the corridor like he's being pulled by the quiet. And you stop breathing. Not because you're afraid of him, but because of what comes next. The priest doesn't visit unless someone's near the edge. He doesn't bless the living. He prepares the leaving. You remember the first time you saw him weeks ago, when Sister Agnes still had strength in her voice. She whispered, if you see the priest before your shift ends, someone will die before morning. You laughed then. Now you never do. You listen for the rattle of his beads. You never hear them. But you know they're there, brushing the edge of his robe, clicking softly like teeth in prayer. Tonight, he stops outside room 7. You bite the inside of your cheek. That's where the girl is the one who still talks to the empty chair beside her bed. She said her brother visits at night. You never saw anyone. You place the towel down. Walk away before you hear anything more. Before the door clicks shut. Before the candle is lit. The priest doesn't stay long. He never does. He says what needs saying to the air, to the soul, to whoever's still listening. And then he leaves. Always in silence, always through a door that doesn't creak. You pass him in the hallway. Your eyes meet briefly. His are pale, like glass left in winter. He doesn't blink. You do. He continues on. His robe stirs no dust. His scent is wax and old wood. You inhale finally, but it's shallow, as if you're afraid you'll draw in something that doesn't belong to you. You don't speak to anyone after he passes, not yet, not until you check room 7. Later you do. She's asleep, or something close to it. Her hand clutches the edge of her sheet like a lifeline. You adjust her pillow lightly. She doesn't stir. You sit beside her a moment. No reason, just a habit. There's a strange peace in the air, almost warm. But underneath it, the same hush you felt the moment he walked in. The priest never says goodbye. He doesn't need to. His presence is the punctuation. And when he's gone, you're left behind with the sentence he didn't finish. It's the smell that finds you first, before the name on the chart, before the moan from the bed, before the linen turns red again. It seeps out into the corridor, thick and sweet, but wrong. Like flowers left too long in a sealed room. Like meat forgotten under floorboards. Like death pretending to be sugar. You stop outside room 9, hold the tray tight. Inside, he's already waiting. The man on the bed is wide-eyed, but not from pain. More like distance. He's somewhere else, and maybe he prefers it that way. You don't speak. You set the tray down. Open the bandage kit. Check your cloths, your bottle of carbolic, your gloves, which aren't real gloves, just fabric strips tied round your palms. The wound is on his leg, upper thigh, deep, black around the edges, yellow in the middle, red, still leaking down. You bite the inside of your cheek, because this isn't just infection, this is rot. The kind that's already writing goodbye beneath the skin. You soak the cloth in solution, lift it gently, press. The man groans, not loudly, not with protest, just response, like his body is surprised it can still feel. You clean around the edges, trying not to disturb what's barely holding. The skin sloughs in places, pulls away like wet paper. You whisper you're all right. But it's a lie, and you both know it. The smell thickens, your eyes water. You reach for fresh cloth, dab, blot, wrap. The bandage won't hold. The skin is too soft, the leg too swollen. You wrap again, tighter, then pin it with rusted clips and say a prayer you don't mean. The man looks at you. Does it look bad, he asks. You open your mouth, then close it, then lie again. I've seen worse. He chuckles, a dry sound with no air in it. Suppose you have? You finish, wipe your hands, drop the used cloth in the bucket. It hisses in the water like it wants to crawl back out. You stand. He closes his eyes and says softly, "It's coming, isn't it?" You pause, then nod. Not to him, to the silence. You take the tray, walk back into the corridor, and leave the door ajar. There's no point pretending, not with that smell. It will linger, in your apron, in your hair, in the corners of your throat. No one else will notice, but you will. Because now you know the scent of a wound that doesn't want to heal. A wound that's already halfway gone. It's near midnight when you check room 11. The candle you carry is almost gone, wax, clinging to your knuckles like sleep you can't shake. You push the door open softly. You don't want to wake him, but he's already awake. Eyes open, staring at the ceiling, mouth moving. You pause in the doorway. He hasn't seen you. He's speaking softly, rhythmically, like someone reciting a lullaby or negotiating terms. You step closer, the words sharpen just enough to catch. "No, not her," he says. "Just me. You said just me." You freeze. His voice is calm, not frightened, but tired. The kind of tired that bleeds into your bones. He turns his head slightly, looks at the far corner of the room. There's nothing there, just shadows, layered on more shadows, and maybe a broken chair no one's moved in months. He smiles, not at you, at something else. "You came back," he says. You whisper, "Who are you talking to?" He blinks, then looks at you like you're the one who doesn't belong. "She's waiting," he tells you. His voice is steady, always stands by the fireplace, every night now. You glance at the fireplace. No fire, no footprints, just brick and soot and the smell of old rain. She doesn't want the girl in the next bed, he adds. Just me. Said I promised her, long ago. You don't know what to say. No chart prepared you for this. You step forward, check his pulse. Still strong, fever mild, skin dry. Nothing to explain the visions. Except maybe everything. He relaxes under your hand. Tell her I'm not ready. You don't answer. You dampen a cloth and place it on his brow. He hums a low sound like the beginning of a hymn. You sit for a moment, not to comfort him, to listen. Because part of you wants to know if you'll hear her too. You don't. Only breath, only rustling linen, only the small creaks buildings make when they remember the past. You rise, take the candle with you. It gutters once in protest. As you step into the hallway, he speaks again. She doesn't like when people turn their back. You pause. Then keep walking. You don't look back, not this time. And later, when you're folding linens alone, you feel a coldness behind your shoulder. Not wind, not breath. Just presence. You turn, nothing. But the chair in the corner, you could swear it's been moved. You never meant to fall asleep. Not there, not like that. But exhaustion isn't something you argue with anymore. It comes when it wants like fog, and leaves when it's finished with you. You're curled in the corner behind the laundry cart, knees pulled to your chest, apron half covering your face. The stone wall is cold against your spine, and the dim light from the boiler room flickers every few minutes like someone breathing slowly just out of view. You don't dream, not exactly, but your mind plays loops, flashes of hands, reaching sheets, pulled tight, eyes half open but not seeing. Then it happens, the hand. Soft, light, but definite. A weight on your shoulder like someone kneeling beside you, trying not to wake you too suddenly. You stir. Don't open your eyes just yet. You're sure it's Sister Ellen, or matron, or maybe the new girl, the one who hums when she's nervous. But when you open your eyes, no one is there. No footsteps, no voice, just the wheeze of the pipes behind you and the faint dripping from the sink across the hall. You sit up slowly. The floor aches beneath your hips. Your arm is numb, but your shoulder still tingles, right where the hand had been. You glance around. The cart hasn't moved. The corridor is still empty. But the candle in the iron holder by the stairs, you don't remember lighting it, and now it's burning. You rise, legs unsteady, step into the hallway, call out quietly. Hello! No answer, only the rustle of fabric behind a door that's supposed to be empty. You don't check, not tonight. You return to your cot, lie down fully this time, flat, arms at your side like a patient, like someone waiting. And still you feel it. Not fear, not quite. Just that soft weight pressed into your shoulder, lingering like memory. You tell yourself it was nothing. Just sleep, just nerves, just wind. But you sleep facing the wall after that, always the wall. Because the next time, you don't want to open your eyes and see who it really was. You tell yourself it was nothing, just a dream, just a draft, just fatigue pressing down on your nerves until they imagined comfort. But still, you don't sleep. Not tonight. You sit on the edge of the cot, back straight, hands folded in your lap, like you're waiting for judgment. The candle flickers on the far wall, burning low in its dish of wax puddles. The light is weak, but you don't dare snuff it out. Every few minutes, you glance toward the dark corner near the laundry shelf. Nothing moves, but your eyes keep going back. You don't drink the tea they brought. You don't eat the bread left on the tray. You just sit and wait and listen. The building makes its usual sounds, pipes, expanding floorboards, sighing a door hinge, crying softly from down the hall. You know these sounds. You've named them over the months. They're part of the rhythm. But tonight, every noise feels like a prelude, like the moment before a hand reaches through the curtain again. You wrap your shawl tighter. The chill isn't from the air. It's from what's missing, from the absence of sleep, of dreams of certainty. You try reading the chart left on your bedside stool. The ink blurs, not from tears you're too tired to cry, from candlelight and nerves. Midnight passes. You hear someone cough on the third floor, then footsteps, then silence. Your legs cramp. You stretch them. You stand. You sit again. Time unspools like thread from a spool too tightly wound. You hum to yourself, not a song, just sound, to keep the silence from saying something first. At some point, you think you see movement, a shape near the stairwell, tall, thin, still. You stare. It doesn't move. You blink. Gone. You squeeze your eyes shut, open them again. The corner is empty, but your chest is full of something heavy, dread shaped like waiting. The candle sputters, then steadies, then dims. You light another, your last one. By 4 o'clock your hands are trembling, not from fear now, from sheer exhaustion. But still you do not lie down. Not even when your body begs, not even when the blanket looks soft, not even when the voices in your head whisper that this is foolish, that nothing will happen, that you imagined it all. Because somewhere beneath all that logic, you remember the weight, the fingers, the certainty of being touched by something that never breathed. So you stay, eyes open, back aching, neck stiff, but safe, you think. And when the sun finally bleeds through the windows, a pale, reluctant gray, you stand. You survive the night. Not because it wasn't real, but because you didn't close your eyes. It's early, too early for anything to make sense, but your shift has already begun. You're folding bandages in the supply room, crisp, white, perfect rectangles that won't stay clean for long. The light slants across the floor, touching the edges of things like it doesn't want to wake them. The new girl walks in. You don't remember her name. Something soft, something hopeful. She asks how your night was. You blink. Then you laugh. Just once, short, sharp, like the sound escaped you before you knew it was there. She startles. Her hand jerks. A stack of gauze slips from her arms onto the floor. You stop laughing, but the echo remains in the air between you, thin and wrong. She bends down to pick up the cloths, doesn't say anything. You don't either. Because what would you say? That you haven't really slept in days. That you're starting to forget what silence feels like when it isn't full of eyes. You return to folding, slow, precise, pretending the sound never happened. But she's watching you now. Not unkindly, just carefully. Later she asks Sister Ellen if she can switch shifts. You overhear it by accident, or maybe not by accident. You don't take it personally. You barely feel anything at all. That's the part that worries you. That afternoon, someone drops a tray in the corridor. The clatter echoes like a shot. You don't flinch. But you do laugh, again, alone, quiet. Not because it's funny, because it's the only sound that makes sense. That night, when you wash your hands in the cracked sink outside the fever ward, you see yourself in the mirror. Not your face, just your eyes. And for a moment, you don't recognize them. They look like someone else's, someone who knows something you wish you didn't. Someone who laughs, not because they're well, but because it's all finally coming undone. The storeroom is quiet, cool, shadowed, one of the few places where no one comes looking for you, unless something's run out. You stand in the doorway for a while, holding the key in your hand, even though the door's already open. Inside the shelves are uneven. The linens sag in crooked stacks. The jars of ointment are out of order wintergreen beside laudanum. Glass bottles tucked behind metal tins. It's always been this way. But today it feels wrong. Today the chaos itched behind your eyes. So you step inside and begin. You start with the gauze, stack it corner to corner, pressing out the creases like it matters. Then, the bandages. Thick rolls, thin ones clean, almost clean, sorted into neat rows like soldiers that will never march. Next, the jars. You wipe the dust from their labels. Turn them so the words face forward. Calendula, mustard paste, alcohol. The shelf groans under your careful hands, as if it's not used to this kind of attention. You don't stop. The floor is swept, the lamp glass is polished, even the unused scale gets cleaned, though no one weighs anything here anymore. It's not about cleanliness. It's not about usefulness. It's about gravity. About the feeling that if you touch enough surfaces, if you arrange the world just right, maybe your hands will remember what stability felt like. You pause to look at your reflection in the glass of the medicine cabinet. Dim, warped, but there. You smooth your hair, straighten your collar, and pretend. Outside, a tray crashes, voices rise. Someone sobs quietly, urgently. But here, in this small room with 4 stone walls and 2 wooden chairs, there is order. Even if only for a while. The door creaks behind you. It's the matron. She peeks in, looks around, then oddly says nothing. She just nods, closes the door again. You let out a breath. Not relief, not pride. Just proof that you're still in your body. You rearrange one last bottle, even though it's already aligned. Then you sit in the corner, hands in your lap, surrounded by things that don't scream, don't bleed, don't ask you to do anything more than keep them in place. And for 10 quiet minutes, you feel like nothing is falling apart. It's a quiet hour, late afternoon before the evening bell, the kind of in-between time where the ward feels half asleep, not from peace, but from exhaustion. You're changing linens in room 12. The woman in the bed watches you, eyes cloudy, but not unkind. She doesn't speak much, only when she's thirsty or when the wind howls through the window frame. You smooth the new sheet over her, tuck the corners, adjust her pillow. As you turn to leave, her hand lifts, slow, thin fingers, soft and trembling. She doesn't say a word, just reaches. And without thinking, you take it. Not out of duty, not to steady her, not even to comfort. Just because it's been days since someone touched you, without needing to be cleaned, wrapped, or buried. Her skin is warm but dry. The pulse flickers beneath your thumb. You stay like that, still, kneeling, her hand wrapped in yours, like it's the last thread connecting you to anything real. She closes her eyes, breathes slowly. You don't move. You know the rules. You've been told. No unnecessary contact. Don't linger. Don't confuse comfort with care. But the moment stretches, and you stay. Because today, no one else has said your name. No one asked how you slept. No one even looked you in the eye. But this woman whose name you barely remember, whose file is stained and folded, held your hand like it meant something. Like you meant something. You squeeze gently, just once. She squeezes back, then lets go. It's subtle, but final. You stand, adjust her blanket again, even though it's already perfect. You walk to the door. Then pause. Your hand still tingles. Not with fear, not with fever, but with the echo of something human. You press your fingers to your lips, just to remember the warmth. And when you step back into the corridor, the air doesn't feel quite as heavy. Not yet. It's a routine task. Change the pillowcase. Fluff, rotate, tuck. Move to the next bed. You've done it hundreds of times. hands moving before thoughts, steps memorized like a hymn. But today something catches. A stiffness inside the linen, a fold that isn't fabric. You pause. You reach in fingertips, brushing against paper. Not medical, not a chart, not something official. Just a note. Small, folded twice. Edges worn soft, like it's been hidden a while. You glance around. No one's watching. You unfold it. No greeting, no signature. Just 7 words written in small, cramped ink. Tell her I didn't mean to leave. That's all. You stare at the page. It isn't addressed. No name, no bed number, just emotion suspended, unsent, unsaid. You look at the patient, an old man, sleeping or pretending. You don't recognize him. New arrival, face like worn stone. Did he write it? Or did someone leave it for him? Or was it meant for another bed? One that's now empty. You turn the paper over, blank, no date, no sign of when it was written. You feel something tighten in your chest, not panic, something softer, like standing too close to someone else's grief. You fold it again, gently. You don't know what to do. There's no protocol for this, no line in the manual that tells you where ghost notes should go. You consider tucking it back, but something stops you. You slip it into your pocket, not to keep, not exactly. Just to think. All afternoon, the note presses against your leg, like a secret. You feel it during rounds, when you scrub your hands, when you pour tea. Those 7 words, they stay louder than anything else you hear that day. By nightfall, you return to the same room. The man is still there, eyes closed, breath shallow. You almost ask him, but don't. You sit at the edge of the bed for a moment, fold the sheet, adjust the lamp, then stand and place the note beneath the corner of the mattress. You still don't know who it's for. But somehow you feel it's exactly where it needs to be. She doesn't pack much, just a satchel, worn leather, scuffed edges. She holds it the way some hold prayer books, closed but not too tight. You find her in the hallway at dawn, hair brushed, dress straightened, face calm in the way only someone leaving can be. You don't ask where she's going. You already know. Anywhere else. The matron doesn't stop her, just hands her a folded envelope and nods like this has happened before, like it's allowed if you don't make a fuss. You stand by the stairwell, pretending to adjust your apron, watching, trying not to let your eyes give you away. The nurse meets your gaze, smiles. It's real, but small. The kind of smile you save for someone who once helped you find a lost spoon or shared bread in silence. You smile back, but you don't step forward, don't say goodbye, don't ask her to stay. Because what would you say? Stay and watch people disappear. Stay and lose sleep over names that fade faster than ink. Stay and learn how it feels to know every window in the building by the sound of its rattle. No, you say nothing. She walks down the stairs, one step at a time, not rushed, not regretful, just done. And you're not. You're still holding a tray of used bandages, still standing in a building that hums with slow death still here. You carry the tray to the washroom, set it down, run the water. Your hands move automatically, soap rinse, press hang. But your thoughts linger on the satchel, the boots that didn't squeak, the space she left behind. You wonder what she'll do tonight, sleep in a room without coughs. Eat without the smell of carbolic hanging over the bread. You picture her walking under an open sky, without the bells, without the rules. You rinse the last cloth, wring it out, let the water drip slowly into the basin. Then you press your palms to the edge of the sink and ask yourself, not for the first time, why you're still here. Is it duty, fear, habit? Or something smaller, something quieter, like a thread too tangled to pull free. Behind you, someone coughs, a familiar sound. You pick up the tray, walk back down the hall, and pretend you don't feel the emptiness where her footsteps used to echo. It starts with a question, soft, harmless. Sister Ellen glances at the ledger, then at you, and asks, "Is it Tuesday?" You open your mouth to answer, but nothing comes out. Because you don't know, not exactly. You think it might be. You think yesterday was Monday. But yesterday also feels like last week, and the day before that might have been Thursday, or the day matron cried quietly in the linen room. You smile weakly, say, "I think so." She nods, doesn't press. But now the thought won't leave you. You pass the stairwell. The calendar pinned to the wall is ripped, today's page missing. Or maybe someone never turned it. The number is old. The name of the saint is unfamiliar. You keep walking. In the ward, someone asks when the doctor will come. You say, "In the morning." But you don't know what morning means anymore. Wasn't he just here? The patients blend. The meals blend. The hours bleed through the windows in shades of gray and nothing. You try to count the number of shifts since the last full rest you had, but all you can remember is a bowl of cold soup and a scream that didn't belong to any patient. Later, when you sit in the scullery to fold gauze, you whisper to yourself, "Wednesday. It must be Wednesday." But the word tastes wrong, too round, too soft. You check the tag in your apron. Someone wrote a date once long ago. It's smudged, unreadable. You laugh, soft, to no one. And wonder if you stopped knowing what day it is, would anyone notice? Would anyone care? You think about the nurse who left. She probably knows. She probably sleeps in real time now. You look out the narrow window above the storeroom sink. The light is gray again. That non-time light. The kind that comes when it's either too early or too late. You try to remember the last time you saw sunlight. You didn't have to squint through dust. You try to remember anything, really. A birthday, a Sunday, a name spoken with joy. But all you see is linen. All you hear is the creak of your own breath in a hallway too still. You write Thursday in the margin of your chart, then cross it out. Write Tuesday, then nothing. And keep walking. Because whatever day it is, the bell will ring. The bodies will need turning. The mouths will need water. And your hands, tired, cracked, steady, will keep moving whether or not the world turns with them. You find it behind the water basin, tucked beneath a folded towel, as if someone meant to return for it, but never did. The cover is faded, blue once maybe, now the color of old sky and older sorrow. No title, just scratches from fingers or time. You look around, no one nearby, no name on the inside cover, just a smudge where someone might have written one or rubbed it out. You sit, just for a moment. Back against the wall, knees pulled close. The book fits neatly in your hands, as if it's been waiting for them. The first few pages are intact. It's a novel. Romantic, maybe. A young woman waiting by the sea. A soldier with a letter he hasn't mailed. The writing is simple, kind. You read slowly, mouth moving a little with each word, as if speaking might make it more real. And for the first time in days, you forget the smell of carbolic. You forget the drip in room 3. You forget the name you couldn't remember this morning. You are there by the sea, watching the waves roll in beneath someone else's grief. Then you turn the page, and it's blank. You turn again, blank. Another blank. Chapter 7 ends mid-sentence. He was about to speak, and then nothing. You flip to the end, more blanks, a few ink blots, one torn corner, but no words. You go back, reread the earlier pages, try to imagine what might have come next. Does he return? Does she wait? Do they meet again beneath the lighthouse? You'll never know. And somehow that hurts more than it should. You close the book gently, cradle it in your lap. Maybe someone meant to write the rest. Maybe they ran out of ink or time. Maybe they died before they could finish. You place it on the shelf beside the linens, not hidden, but not in the open either, like a secret someone else might find someday. As you rise, you feel the ache in your knees again, the one that always comes back after stillness. You carry the used towels down the hall. You change the sheets in bed 9. You nod when the doctor frowns at your chart. But something in you is still turning pages, still waiting for the ending that someone forgot to write. You're not supposed to be there. The East Wing was closed 2 weeks ago. Too few staff, too many deaths. No point in airing out silence. The doors were locked, the beds stripped, the gas lamps turned down and left to settle into dust. But today, someone forgot to latch the service door, and you needed a shortcut, or maybe just a quiet place to breathe. You step inside. The air is cold, colder than it should be. The kind of cold that isn't temperature, but memory. You walk slowly, feet soft on tile as though not to wake something. The corridor narrows here. The wallpaper peels like old skin, and the sound of your own footsteps feels too loud. You pause by what used to be room 18. A girl died there. You remember the smell of her breath near the end, sweet like mold and sugar. The door is cracked open now. You didn't open it. You peer inside. Nothing. Just light slanting in through broken blinds. Dust floating like it's deciding where to land. You turn to leave. And that's when you hear it. Laughter. Not loud, not cruel, but clear, young. A girl's laugh, the kind that comes before you blow out candles or win a game you thought you'd lose. It echoes once, then stops. You freeze. There's no one else in the wing. There hasn't been for days. You wait, listen, hold your breath, the way you do when checking for a pulse. Nothing. You step into the hallway again, walk toward the old linen cupboard, just to be sure. Nothing. The laugh doesn't come again, not then. You don't tell anyone. Not the matron, not Sister Ellen, not even the new girl who still hums when she's nervous. Because what would you say? That something in the dark remembers joy better than you do. That somewhere in this dust and rot and broken lamps, there's a voice that still knows how to smile. That night, you lie awake and wonder if maybe, just maybe, the girl in room 18 left that sound behind for someone like you to find. At first, it was just one name. Etta. You wrote it in pencil behind the curtain rod in room 5. Tiny crooked, not meant for anyone to see. Just a moment, just a mark because her tag was lost and no one else remembered her voice. The next night, it was Thomas, then Paul, then the girl who clutched your wrist before dawn and whispered a lullaby that didn't belong to this century. You tried to keep their names on the charts, but the charts vanish, taken, burned, rewritten, or simply replaced. One day, you opened a folder and found someone else's name in the bed that used to be William's, just like that erased. So now you carry a pencil in your apron, short, dull, worn down until it's barely a breath of lead and wood. You press names into corners, under windowsills, behind headboards, sometimes beneath loose tiles, if you can lift them without being heard. You don't write dates. You don't write how they died. Just the names. Because you're starting to forget what they looked like, and that terrifies you more than the screaming, more than the blood, more than the smell of something rotting in a room no one enters anymore. One morning, you find a name you didn't write, tucked behind the shelf in the supply room. Just one word. Alice. In someone else's handwriting. You stare at it, touch it, feel a quiet, desperate relief. You are not the first. And maybe not the last. You start using charcoal when the pencil gets too short. Smudge is easier. but last longer. Sometimes you whisper the names as you write them, not like prayers, not like ghosts, just memory. One night the matron catches you brushing dust from the wall behind a bedpost. She says nothing, just looks, then walks away. That silence feels like permission, or maybe surrender. Now the walls hold more than plaster. They hold people. And when you walk the halls in the dark, when the wind moans through the cracked window panes, when the beds are still, when even your breath feels borrowed, you run your fingers along the bricks and feel their names press back. Like they're still here, because in some small, defiant way they are. It's a rare moment quiet, not because the ward is at peace, but because the chaos has paused just long enough for you to notice the stillness. Someone left a scrap of paper on the side table, the back of an old inventory list, mostly blank, just wide enough to feel like a letter. There's a pencil stub in your apron pocket, warmed by your body, dulled by time. You sit on the edge of your cot, and for once your hands don't shake. You write the first line slowly, dear. Then stop. You want to say mother or sister or Annie, but the name won't come. You stare at the blank space. Wait. Nothing. You skip the greeting. Start a new line. I'm still here. Then cross it out. Not because it isn't true, because it means nothing without context. Because here has become too big, too full of ghosts and blood and silence to explain. You try again. The days are long, but I'm all right. You leave it. Then the question arrives, the one you didn't want. Where are you? You don't know. You remember the station you left from, the steam, the weight of your bag, a sandwich wrapped in brown paper. You remember a field with yellow flowers, a river maybe. But the town's name, it's gone. You close your eyes. Try to picture the sign outside the bakery, the street where the cat used to sleep beneath the cart. Nothing. Your mouth tastes like dust. You stare at the paper. Right, it's near the coast, I think. Then cross that out too. You feel your heartbeat in your fingertips. The page blurs, not from tears, you haven't cried in weeks. Just from forgetting. You try to recall the name of the girl you shared a room with when you were little, the one who braided your hair, sang off-key. You remember her face, but not her name. You remember her laugh, but not why she left. You place the pencil down. You turn the paper over, blank again. You fold it twice, slide it under your mattress. You don't tear it, you don't throw it away. You just let it rest unfinished. Because somehow even this is more than most things get here. That night, when the matron does final rounds, she pauses by your cot. You all right? She asks, as if the question still has meaning. You nod. She walks on. And in the darkness, you whisper to the floorboards, to the space beneath your skin. I used to be from somewhere. And that's all you can say. The window is dirty, not enough to hide the view, just enough to blur it. Make the world outside look like it's been underwater too long. You're standing there, tray in hand, midway through your second round, eyes fixed on the chimney stacks across the courtyard. The smoke drifts sideways today. You wonder if that means rain, or wind, or something worse. Your feet hurt. You can't feel two of your toes. Your apron is still damp from the spill in room 7. You haven't eaten since yesterday, or maybe the day before. The patient in bed 4 coughs. You hear it. You always do. But you don't turn. Because for 1 minute, just one, you are watching the way light catches the cracked glass, how the sky turns the color of cooled iron. And that's all you're doing. You're not dreaming, you're not praying, you're not collapsing. You're just there. And then, when you finally turn back, the room is quiet. Not peaceful, just quiet in the way that only comes after something has ended. The patient's eyes are closed, mouth parted, hands still. You walk slowly to the bedside, check for breath, pulse, warmth. Nothing. No struggle, no gasp, no final word. Just gone. And you were here. You were right here. You set the tray down, smooth the blanket, close the eyelids, tuck the arms in like you've done so many times before. You open the window wider, let the air move through. You don't cry, not because you're strong, but because there's no room left for tears today. Not for this. You step into the hallway, find the matron, tell her simply, bed 4. She nods. No questions. No blame. Only another tick on the chalkboard. You return to the ward. Someone asks for water, another coughs. Life continues, but you keep seeing the window, and the moment you didn't move, didn't act. And all you can think is, how many more will go while I'm standing still? It starts as a habit, an unconscious glance, the way your eyes scan the edges of a room before your feet even stop moving. At first it's practical. If there's a fire, if a patient lashes out, if something worse happens, something with no name but too many shapes in your mind. But soon it becomes a pattern, a ritual, a quiet obsession. You step into the laundry room. One door, small window above the basin. Could fit through it if you took off the apron, maybe. In the medicine storeroom, one door narrow. No windows. Shelf near the back loose enough to shift concealment, if not escape. The fever ward main door always ajar. Back corridor sealed since last winter's collapse. But the wall behind bed 3 is cracked. Soft enough that with enough force you think it might. You shake the thought away. But you don't stop counting. Every room becomes a map, a puzzle of distance and obstacles. Your mind rearranges furniture like a game. Could I get out? Would anyone stop me? You memorize keys, which ones the matron keeps in her left pocket, which ones Sister Ellen leaves on the hook during tea. You clock the timing of rounds, the shift in light between gas lamps, the 5-minute lull before morning bells. You even dream in blueprints, hallways bending like rivers, doors unlocking under your fingertips without resistance. But here's the thing. You never leave. Not once. Even when no one is watching. Even when the front gate is cracked open for the coal delivery. Even when you're standing with your hand on the latch and the world breathing somewhere just beyond the mist. You stay. Because leaving means becoming someone else, and you're not sure who that would be anymore. You've folded too many sheets, held too many hands, whispered too many names into corners no one cleans. Out there, you wouldn't be a nurse. You'd be a girl with shaking fingers and stories she can't tell without making everyone uncomfortable at dinner. So you stay. And keep counting. Not to escape, not really. Just to know that if it ever becomes too much, if the screaming grows louder than your will, if the silence begins to answer you back, you could. You could. You start small, just a list, in your head. What you'd take if you left, if you really left. First the shawl, the one from your sister. Gray wool, patched near the elbow. You haven't worn it in weeks, but the scent still reminds you of fireplaces that weren't meant for the dying. Then the tin button in your pocket, the one from Etta's gown. She never asked for it back. You tell yourself it's not stealing, it's remembering. Your notebook, empty mostly. Only one page filled 7 names, written in pencil, pressed so hard the marks bled through. The boots. You'd need the boots. They squeak in the left sole, but they're yours. You imagine placing it all carefully in the bag under your cot. You see it so clearly, fold, place wrap tie. It gives you comfort, this pretend packing. Like an escape hatch you can build in your mind without ever turning the handle. You repeat the list at night. Whisper it to the ceiling as the pipes groan above you. As someone coughs 3 doors down. As something unseen scratches behind the cupboard. Sometimes you add things. A comb, 2 candles, a scrap of bread wrapped in linen. Never the uniform, that stays. If you go, you'll leave it here, like shedding skin. You never actually touch the bag. You don't dare, because touching it might make it real, and real things demand decisions. But the idea of packing it becomes its own ritual, a way to feel movement without taking a single step. One day, the girl in the bed beside yours, new quiet, soft hands, asks if you're planning to leave. You blink, smile, say no. Because you're not. Not really. Not yet. But that night, you count the items again. Picture each one in your hands, and for just a moment you feel lighter. Like maybe you're more than just the girl who stays. Maybe you're the girl who's almost ready to go. It's barely light out. The sky is that soft, colorless gray that comes just before dawn, decides what it wants to be. The air smells of wet stone and coal smoke, and something sweeter, like bread, baking far away in a world that doesn't include you. You're outside, really outside, apron off, hair down, boots laced tight. The gravel path crunches beneath your steps as you cross the yard, past the empty bench, past the bent tree with the carved initials that no one remembers carving. In your pocket, the shawl, a comb, the tin button, 1 candle, no letter, no goodbye. You reach the gate. It's unlocked. Someone left it that way. Or maybe it was never truly locked to begin with. The iron is cold against your fingers. You grip it, push it open just enough to feel the space beyond. The open road, fog curling over the hedgerows, the first song of a bird you've never heard from inside. And then you stop. Because something is missing, something small, something heavy. You realize it isn't your bag, it isn't your body. It's your reason. You don't know where you'd go. You can't remember the name of the town you came from, or the name of the woman who used to call you by something softer than nurse, or how long it's been since you last heard your own voice spoken with kindness. You step back, not much, just enough to feel the gravel again, to hear it, to remind yourself where you are. The candle in your pocket shifts. You tighten your hand around it, not to light it, just to feel something real. Behind you, a bell rings, soft, muffled, the morning call. You close the gate. The latch clicks like the secret you already knew. You turn, walk back, each step lighter than it should be, each breath harder. The building waits for you. Windows like tired eyes, door cracked open, no one inside asking where you've been. When you pass the matron in the hallway, she doesn't say a word. But you think maybe she stood at that gate too. Maybe she also turned back. You go to the scullery, light the stove, fill the kettle, and whisper so quietly you're not sure you even said it. I almost left. But almost doesn't count here. Only staying does. She doesn't tell anyone. You just notice in that way people like you are trained to notice. The satchel beneath the cot, the shoes cleaned, the bun in her hair neater than it's ever been. She's quiet at breakfast, but not in the trembling way of the new girls. No, this quiet is practiced, protective, final. You pass her in the linen hallway. She smiles, you don't. You nod because that's all you have left to give. You know what she's doing. You know the weight in her steps, the press of breath held behind her ribs. You've carried that same weight. You watch the gate open once too. You don't ask if she's packed. You don't ask where she'll go. You don't ask if she'll write. Because you know she won't, and not because she doesn't care, but because this place turns letters into confessions and goodbyes into ghosts. You stand in the corridor, hands wet from scrubbing the wash basin, and watch her move toward the back stairs. No one else notices. Or maybe they do, but like you, they've learned to make room for silence. The bell rings. A patient groans in room 6. The stove coughs black smoke into the scullery again. And she walks away. No crying, no hug, no sudden wait. Just the soft sound of shoes on stone. Gone. You don't move. You don't return to your tasks right away. You just stand as if you might freeze this moment in place, as if staying still might make you disappear along with her. But the moment passes, and you remain. That evening, someone asks where the other nurse is, the one with the gentle hands. You shrug. Say you think she was transferred. No one presses. You scrub the tables, replace the linens, sweep the corners. But all the while you wonder. What did she take with her? What did she leave behind? And most of all, what does it mean when the only part of you that wants to say goodbye no longer has the voice to do so? It's not sudden. It never is. For a while you still hear it softly, rarely, in the way Sister Ellen says it during roll, or how the matron murmurs it when assigning shifts. But then one day, they stop saying it altogether. They say you, they say nurse, they say girl. And you answer, automatically, without thinking. Because you've learned that in this place, your name doesn't matter as much as your hands do. You catch yourself once in the laundry room, repeating the word miss over and over like it's a prayer with no answer. Just sound. You try writing it down, your name full middle first, but the letters look wrong, off balance, faded like they belong to someone who moved out of your body years ago. You hold the pencil tighter as if pressure might bring the memory back. It doesn't. Someone calls from the ward. You rise, leave the paper behind, leave the name behind too. Later a patient asks, "What's your name again?" You smile, say it's not important. He laughs, tells you that's a good answer, that he never trusted names anyway. He dies the next morning, and you realize he was the last person to ask. You try saying it in your head before bed, whispering it to the ceiling to the thin line where plaster cracks like dried skin. But it feels strange now, foreign, like it belongs to a different girl in a different life with sunlight on her cheeks and bread that wasn't always dry. You stop using it in letters, stop thinking of it during prayers. Eventually, you stop needing it at all. Because the truth is, no one here wants your name. They want your steps, your stillness, your silence, your clean fingernails and steady breath. The rest, who you were, what you wanted, how you once sounded when laughing gets folded away like old linen stacked behind the things that matter now. But some nights, when the ward is too quiet and even the ghosts are tired, you dream of someone calling for you with a voice you almost remember. And when you wake heart pounding, throat dry, you don't know whether to answer or not. There's a mirror in the corner of the washroom, cracked, smudged, hung too low on the wall, like it was never meant for standing women, only for the sick ones, sitting sagging, slipping away. You pass it every day, twice, maybe 3 times. But you haven't really looked into it for weeks, maybe longer. Today you pause. No one else is here. The water in the basin is still. The candlelight flickers gently, just enough to give your reflection shape. You lean in. At first you see the familiar things, the loose hairs escaping your pins, the pale skin, the hollows under your eyes carved out by too many sleepless nights. But then your eyes find your eyes, and you stop. Because what's looking back doesn't feel like someone you know. She doesn't flinch, she doesn't smile, she doesn't blink. Just watches you quietly, like she's waiting for you to say something honest. You glance away, then look back quickly, hoping it'll help, but it doesn't. The feeling is still there, the disconnection, the absence of self. You touch her cheek, as if to remind the reflection how it's supposed to move. She does, but a beat too slow, a little too late, like someone remembering how to be human after forgetting for a while. You whisper your name, soft, not to hear it, to feel if your lips still know how to shape it. The sound hits the tiled walls and dies there. You try again, this time with more breath, more certainty, but it comes out wrong, like a word from someone else's language. You rest your hands on the rim of the basin, cold porcelain, something solid. You stare back into your own eyes and ask, "Are you still in there?" The reflection doesn't answer. She never does. But for a moment, just one, you see something. Not recognition, not comfort. Just tiredness. The kind that sinks behind the eyes and never quite rises again. You splash water on your face, wipe it away with the corner of your sleeve. You look one more time, hold the gaze for 3 seconds. Then walk away. You don't look back. You don't need to. You already know she's still standing there, watching you go, wondering when you'll stop coming back. It happens while you're changing a pillow. The girl in the bed 15 maybe asks suddenly, "How old are you?" You pause. Your hands freeze on the edge of the linen. You glance at her expecting a smirk, a challenge, a joke. But she's sincere, just curious, like it matters. And for a moment you almost say it. Almost. But the number doesn't come. Not immediately, not clearly. You try to trace it backward. Start with the year now if you even remember it. Then subtract. But everything is foggy. You know you were 17 when you arrived, or maybe 18. You remember the bag you carried, the sore ankles, the fear tucked behind your collarbone. That was how many winters ago? You count by illnesses. By the year of the Great Cough. The year the East Wing flooded. The year 3 girls left in 1 week. You try to count the gray hairs you've plucked, but even that feels like guessing. You murmur, "I don't know." The girl laughs, thinks you're teasing. She says, "Old enough to sound tired." You smile, but it doesn't reach your eyes. Later, alone in the scullery, you whisper the numbers aloud. Each one feels strange, too small, too large, like trying on someone else's shoes in the dark. You ask yourself, do birthdays still count if no one marks them? If the cake never comes? If no one says your name? You try to picture a candle, a song, but nothing comes. Only gaslight and quiet, only chalkboards and tags, only the slow accumulation of hours that have no shape. You wonder if time here folds inward, if it loops like a hallway with no end, if maybe you've always been here, even before you were born. You dip your hands into a basin of cool water. Look at your fingers, the cracks, the scars. Hands older than the rest of you. You ask again, softly this time, "How old am I?" And in the silence, the walls offer no answer, only the steady drip of something you can't see, measuring your life in moments you've already forgotten. It starts as a soft tapping, barely there, like someone drumming fingers on the edge of memory. You're folding cloth in the hallway near the stairwell when you glance at the window and see it rain, slow and thin, streaking down the glass in quiet rivers. You step closer. The ward is oddly still. No moans, no clanging trays, just that hush that sometimes happens when the sky decides to weep for you. You rest your palm on the sill, cool, solid, something to anchor you. And then you stop. You don't sit, you don't lean, you just stay. Watching. The drops gather race, each other collide, vanish. You begin to trace their paths, with your eyes, choosing favorites, holding your breath as they fall. You forget the bundle of cloth in your arms. Let it fall without noticing. You forget the names on the chart, the bell you were supposed to answer, the medicine waiting to be carried across the corridor. None of it seems real anymore. Only the rain. Only the way it gathers on the outer edge of the stone and falls in strings like silk threads unraveling from the sky. Time loses shape. You blink once. It's lighter. Blink again. It's darker. You hear a voice far behind you. Someone calling. Not your name, just nurse. You don't answer. You're not sure you are one anymore. You wonder how long you've been standing there. A minute, an hour, a year. You imagine someone coming down the hall, finding you frozen eyes, wide lost inside something as ordinary as weather. And you wouldn't even look away. Because in that moment, the rain is the only thing that doesn't ask anything of you, doesn't cry, doesn't bleed, doesn't beg to be washed or buried. It just falls. Eventually, someone does take your arm. Gently. You blink again. See Sister Ellen. She doesn't scold you, doesn't ask questions. Just says it's past now. You nod. Though you don't know what she means. The rain. The hour. The you who was standing here, doing nothing for so long. You pick up the cloth, damp now, as if it too had been waiting, and walk away. But all night, when your hands return to their duties, your eyes keep drifting back to the window. To that place where time forgot to move. It's late. So late the candles have burned themselves to puddles, and the gas lamps flicker like they too want to sleep. You're sitting beside him, an old man, named Joseph, or maybe Jonah, the tag faded, the memory more so. He hasn't spoken all day, just breathed, in, out, in again. Shallow, ragged, like someone trying to remember how. You were meant to be here for only a moment. Check the blankets, dampen the cloth on his forehead, move on. But his hand was outstretched, and you couldn't not take it. So now you sit, no chart, no rush. Just skin against skin, his palm paper thin, your fingers rough from carbolic and soap. The room is quiet, not peaceful, just finished. You count his breaths without meaning to. They slow, wander, disappear for too long, then return like a wave that almost didn't. Then they stop. No gasp, no cry, no drama. Just a space where life used to be. You feel it in your hand first. The weight changes. The warmth begins to retreat. You don't call for anyone. Not yet. You just keep holding on. Because he shouldn't have to go alone. Because no one should. Because your hand is the last thing he'll feel, and somehow that feels more holy than any prayer. The second stretch. You listen, not for breath that's gone, but for silence, the kind that means it's done. You look at his face, mouth slightly open, eyes closed, lines smoothed by something not quite peace, but not pain either. You tighten your fingers slightly, just to say goodbye, just to say I was here. Then you rest his hand gently on the blanket, fold the other over it, tuck the sheet just so. You rise slowly, not with sorrow, not with shock, just stillness. At the door you pause, glance back once. And you whisper, "Thank you." Not because he heard you, but because someone should say it. Then you step into the hallway where another bell is ringing, where another patient is waiting, where your hands are needed again. You're washing your hands again. The basin's cold. The soap's nearly gone. There's a crack in the porcelain that looks deeper every week. Your knuckles sting, skin splitting where the cold and the carbolic meet. You look down at your fingers, your wrists, your arms, and they don't quite feel like yours anymore. They're tools, implements, things that lift, turn, fold, soothe. Not hold, not receive. You dry your hands slowly, cloth worn thin like you. Someone passes behind you, a doctor, or another nurse, you don't look. You haven't been touched today. Not really. Not a hand on your shoulder. Not a brush of hair from your face. Not even the accidental press of fingers against yours. You try to remember the last time. A hug, maybe, before the fever ward opened, before Sister Agnes left. Or that girl who whispered thank you before her pulse stopped. She gripped your hand tight like it meant something. But that was weeks ago. Or was it longer? You close your eyes. Try to conjure the feeling fingertips that aren't yours. Not urgent, not desperate, just mind. But it won't come. You can recall the pressure of a struggling patient, the slap of a nurse in panic, the weight of a dying child collapsing into your arms. But not tenderness, not softness. You whisper to your own hands, "Do you remember?" They don't answer. They tremble slightly, not from cold, not from grief, from emptiness. You press one palm to your chest, feel the rhythm beneath, still beating, still going. But you wonder, is it quieter now? Or is it just you that stopped listening? Someone asks you to help with the sheets. You nod, follow, fold, lift, tuck. And the whole time you wait for something, a pat on the back, a hand brushing yours, an accidental shoulder against shoulder. Nothing comes. Later that night you lie in bed, alone, not lonely, just untouched. You bring your hands to your face, cradle your own cheeks. It's not the same. But it's the only kindness left. And you wonder how long before even that stops meaning anything at all. It's quiet now. Not the kind of quiet that comes from absence, but the kind that follows endurance. The kind of quiet that fills a room after someone has wept and wiped their eyes and said nothing about it. You've walked through those corridors. You've carried the weight of linens and breath and names no one else remembered. You've stood still while the world around you faded, and yet you're still here. Maybe you didn't expect to last this long. But that's the thing about places like this. They don't break you all at once. They soften you, wear you, like stone steps, smoothed by 1,000 footsteps, like ink faded by the hands of those who needed the page more than the words. Victorian nurses weren't trained in classrooms. They learned on the floor, in blood, in silence, in watching someone die and then making the bed again. They weren't called heroes. They weren't thanked. They weren't always believed. But they were there. And being there was enough. They were called girls, even when they were 40. They were blamed when patients worsened. They were touched when they didn't want to be, and ignored when they needed someone most. And still they stayed. Some of them counted the exits. Some packed invisible bags. Some whispered names into empty corners just to remember the sound of voices. And others, many others, forgot their own names, forgot what day it was, forgot what it felt like to be touched kindly, forgot for a while that there was ever a world beyond the ward. But deep inside, underneath all the soaked aprons and cracked hands and sleepless nights, they carried something else. Something that didn't show up in medical records. Something quieter than duty and louder than despair. Compassion. Not the bright smiling kind we like to paint in stories, but the kind that survives behind clenched jaws and tired eyes. The kind that stays when no one's watching, when no one remembers your name. You might think you couldn't have lasted a day, and maybe you're right. Maybe the smell would have broken you, or the cold, or the priest with the 2 quiet footsteps, or the silence after a patient's final breath. But maybe, just maybe, you would have found your own way. Folded 1 extra sheet, written 1 extra name, held 1 hand longer than the rules allowed. And that would have been enough. Because in a place where everything is coming apart, sometimes the smallest act of stillness is the most radical thing a person can do. You don't need to be remembered to have mattered. You don't need a name if your hands were steady. You don't need to be seen to have saved someone from leaving this world alone. So tonight, as the rain taps the window, as your breath evens, as the weight of the day begins to lift from your chest, remember this. Somewhere long ago, someone sat by a cot with no one left to thank them and held a hand until the end. And though the walls forgot and the ledgers were burned and the floors were replaced, that kindness remained. It reached across time, across silence, all the way to you. And now you know. So rest. Let it go. Let the corridors fade. Let the candle dim. Let the hands that once held everything finally go still. You don't have to carry them anymore. They carried enough. And now they are home. So now you're here at the very end. The doors have closed softly behind you. The footsteps have faded down the hall. The last candle is nothing but a faint breath of wax and smoke. You made it through, not because you fought, not because you were strong, but because you stayed. You stayed through the silence, through the name you forgot, through the rain that never stopped, through the hand you held until it didn't hold back. You stayed, and that is its own kind of courage. If you listen now, really listen, you might still hear the sound of linen being folded. A whisper, a rhythm. Like someone far away is still tucking corners as the world prepares for rest. That sound doesn't ask anything from you. You don't need to remember what day it is. You don't need to be ready for morning. You've already done enough. Let the other shifts take over. Let the night nurses walk their quiet rounds. Tonight, you get to close your eyes. Your feet are no longer sore. Your back doesn't ache. There's no tray in your hands, no bell behind you. The windows are still, and the rooms you once walked have gently emptied themselves of sorrow. Even the walls, those old heavy walls, seem lighter now, as if all they ever wanted was someone to witness their silence. You did that. You witnessed. And now you can rest. Let your hands go slack. Let your jaw unclench. Let your breath come deeper, slower, quieter. Like someone sleeping in a clean bed with no shift to wake for, no list to remember, no name to answer to. Because this isn't a hospital anymore. This is a memory, and you are floating gently out of its reach. If your thoughts return gently, tell them not now. Not tonight. Tell them you're folding one last sheet. Tell them you're counting the rain. Tell them you're standing by a window that faces nothing but peace. You're allowed to drift. You're allowed to forget. You're allowed to sleep without permission. And as you go wherever sleep carries, you know this. You were not invisible. You were not erased. You were there. In a time that didn't make space for softness, you held on anyway. And in holding on, you made room for someone else to breathe. So go now quietly. You don't need to knock. The door is already open. And beyond it, only stillness, only rest. Only peace.